So this video is going to outline content from chapter 6, really talking about the importance of trustworthiness and transparency within organizations, within supervision, as trauma-informed leaders, in psychodrama, and in group psychotherapy in general. Now, this second trauma-informed principle, trustworthiness and transparency, is also really important in organizations, in leadership. It's important for supervisors, for educators. And there's going to be parallel processes that emerge in how we're demonstrating or not demonstrating trustworthiness and transparency between the leaders of an agency and their staff, and between the staff and the clients. That if the leadership are demonstrating transparency and trustworthiness with the staff, it's going to be a lot easier and more likely that the staff are going to demonstrate trustworthiness and transparency with the clients that they're working with. Staff who feel trusted by their leaders are more likely to experience success than staff who don't feel trusted by their leaders. Sandy Bloom writes that the erosion of trust in the workplace has become a major barrier to instituting trauma-informed care. I mean, there's a real foundational aspect of trust in an organization between leadership and the staff. If the staff don't feel like they can trust their leaders, they're going to leave the organization. They're going to be disgruntled. They're not going to want to follow policies. They're not going to respect the leadership. Without trust, we lose our sense of safety. We lose peer support and mutuality. We lose the ability to collaborate, to feel empowered, and to celebrate diversity and identity. Trust is so important in workplaces and organizations. Now, trustworthiness and transparency go hand in hand, and they have a reciprocal relationship in that they feed each other. And this is confirmed by research in various fields of business. That when an organization and a leader demonstrates transparency, it directly increases the trust that the public, staff, and customers have in that organization. So a simple way to develop more trust is to practice transparency. And this applies for therapists, for supervisors, for educators, for leaders, for any professional. Staff are more likely to follow a leader that they trust. There was a meta-analysis they did on trust and supervision. Meta-analysis is essentially the highest level of research. It's where they take all the research studies, quantitative research studies, on a given area within 10 or 20 years, and they do the fancy statistical analyses, combining all the sample sizes together, so that we can see across all different populations and settings and industries, what are the trends or the statistics associated with whatever we're researching. In this case, it was about trust in supervision. And what they found in this meta-analysis was that there were 3 main components that workers highlighted as supporting their trust in their supervisors. So 3 main components. First one is about a sense of benevolence. So when a staff member feels and knows that their supervisor has their best interest in mind, has good intentions, really cares about them and cares about the work and cares about the clients and cares about the customers, that they have more trust for that supervisor. Second area is competence. So when workers feel that their supervisor is competent, is skilled, is knowledgeable, they're more likely to trust them. Makes sense. In many cases, it probably makes sense that the supervisor should be the person who's the most skilled and the most competent in the job. And the third quality is integrity. That when staff members know they can trust the integrity of their supervisor, their ethics, that they're going to say what they mean and they're going to do what they say, that they come to have more trust in their supervisor. So as leaders, as supervisors, these are 3 really simple things that we can actively try to cultivate in our supervisory relationships a sense of benevolence, a sense of competence, and a sense of integrity in our work. According to research, trust in one's agency leaders promotes a sense of self efficacy, a sense of well being, job satisfaction, work engagement, and even reduces work related stress and exhaustion or burnout. So, workers who feel that their leaders are not trustworthy are more likely to develop resentment, fear, insecurity, and to not feel safe at work. Trauma informed leaders are trustworthy and ethical leaders. Trauma informed leaders are open and honest about decision making, transparent, especially during major changes, which is really going to help promote a sense of safety and trust. If we're just implementing policies and major changes in our organization without providing some context and some background and some transparency to our staff about why we're making these changes, it's going to disrupt the sense of trust. Many times, workers and staff members don't get to see the big picture of why decisions and policies and changes are implemented in an organization. So, as much as we can, hoping to illuminate and make visible the bigger picture about why changes are being made can be really helpful in promoting transparency and thus promoting trust. Withholding important positive information is also dishonest. So, positive information like gratitude, admiration, respect, and even love or empathy that we have for our clients or colleagues. Sharing these positive things is another way to practice transparency and a way to cultivate trust. Of course, there's going to be limitations to how transparent we can be as leaders, as supervisors. Some personal disclosures and sharing sensitive information about an organization is just going to be inappropriate, unethical, illegal, or even a violation of confidentiality or privacy. So we can't always share everything, which can make it really tough to be a leader at times. That we have information that the staff doesn't have and can't have, and we can't share that information with the staff, but we have to make decisions influenced by that information and ensure that the new policies and changes are adhered to. It's a tough position to be in as a leader. It's also a tough position to be in as a worker when changes are being made and you're not able to receive information about why changes are being made. So it puts everybody in a tough position. I would argue that the use of transparency can also include our use of self and authenticity with emotions as leaders. Of course, as therapists, we often use ourself, and there's a whole lot written about the use of self in psychotherapy. And I would argue that this is also relevant for leaders, the use of self. This can be a really powerful tool for leaders just as it is for therapists. Many times leaders are idolized or feared or resented. And maybe this is because of so much abuse of power and authority and corruption in the past. And many trauma survivors, many of our staff members are going to be trauma survivors who have experienced abuses of power in the past. And there's going to be negative projections and transference that we're going to be the recipient of as leaders. And so many people in power end up becoming dehumanized because of these negative projections, because of these transferences, because of past trauma that people have experienced being projected onto the leader. I think this happens far more often than most people realize. And it's one of the most difficult aspects of being in a leadership role. Just by the nature of being in that role, you're going to be the target of negative projections. And so the use of self, being transparent and authentic about our emotions in a skillful way, can really help people humanize us as leaders rather than dehumanize us or project on us, and really loosen and lessen some of that burden. The use of self and transparency from leaders can help us engage on a human to human level with our team and with our community. Caring about our own internal conflict and our own emotion can help clients and staff see us as leaders and to see us as humans. Of course, as leaders, we have to be aware of our limits, and our emotions are much more effective. So, leaders who are aware of their limits and are aware of their emotions are going to be far more effective than leaders who try to hide or deny or repress their emotions and their limitations. So, emotions, sharing our feelings, sharing our emotions in helpful, appropriate ways really can help cultivate trust and relationships. Leaders who completely avoid personal disclosures, who avoid vulnerability and humility, are more likely to provoke negative projections from others and are more likely to be mistrusted by others. So I want to challenge us to pause for a moment and to consider, as a leader, how am I demonstrating transparency? How am I using myself as a leader? Who are the leaders that I admire, and how specifically do they demonstrate trustworthiness and transparency? You can always look to role models for leadership and learn from them.